Buenos dias, everyone. Here you can really see the Spanish seawall, and wow, is it calm today? It's funny just how different this water is each and every day. I'm wishing you all the best from my little pirate spot here. Um, Everyone just be safe. I read about the mainland, as they call it here, and I just can't understand some of the vandalism going on. You know, I guess the environment is not the hill that the radical leftists are going to die on. They don't really have much room to talk now, do they? I'm sorry using the word they, but wow. I'm just speechless. I'm just here at the beach, kind of speechless, but have been listening a lot to as much as possible about Tavistock and all of this sort of interesting, wild stuff. It's time to do some real research here into it all. And hello, Johnny666, if you're there. Yes, they did say that Tavistock was started. It was called something else first, and I can never remember. Like Winston House or Williams House, or be like pre-Tavistock. And I remember getting this this note from Johnny666, who lives in Merry England, that Tavistock had been for World War I veterans in recovery from trauma. And he was right. But there was a little bit of a catch if you are of the belief that, and that this was a social engineering project, and that they weren't really looking at these traumatized soldiers necessarily to heal them, but to see how to, what trauma is, how to sort of reenact trauma, to just really study trauma in maybe not a healing way, but a mind control way. And I'll give you the link. If I can, it's my phone, so I'm not working with everything here. And the computer store is only open like 3 days a week. It's really funny. So I hadn't realized that, but I'll be going hopefully tomorrow. And so it was like this kind of, we're going to study these people. We're going to see the effects of their trauma, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Williams House became Tavistock as it grew, and it came out of the Fabian Society, and there's kind of these famous pictures of the Fabian Society had a stained glass window that was of a wolf in sheep's clothing, and George Bernard Shaw was part of it, and he did say that the purpose of the Fabian Society was for people to say and believe snow is black. So it was kind of interesting that way, where a person literally brainwashes themselves, becomes their own prison guard. And we see that now. I think that there's the NPR lady who, was famously seen filming things like saying, the truth, gets in the way, things like that. My professor, who I was too afraid to film at Evergreen because she didn't want cameras in the room, and I thought if I film, I'll screw up and make a beeping noise and get expelled or something. But she would get really upset about truth. Truth isn't everything, truth can be harmful. It was just the weirdest thing I'd ever heard. And so it was just like, what? Um, and it ties into the Beatles of all things, where the British invasion was the British invasion. There was a need to reset society from the perspective of Tavistock, and the first thing they wanted to do was kind of put people in this state of trauma and do it through a lot of means: drugs, sound. We've talked about Theodore Adorno on this channel and his uncovering of the unconscious and music in very intense ways that could be for social engineering. And the targets were the US first, because the US was kind of the big successful puppy on the block, and they wanted to destroy family, the Christianity, everything that sort of was part of the society. And they brought in, the psychedelic drugs and this music, and it was all incremental. The first albums of the Beatles were just sort of simple, kind of boy band stuff. And then you ended up kind of getting to the Crowley stuff. They kind of stuck their toes in the water with the Butcher Baby album cover. I don't know if everyone's familiar with that one or not. They were kind of these adorable lads, so it was weird to see them with an album cover with, severed toy babies and things like that. It can seem like a silly little conspiracy, but it really revolved around bigger things. They would always be the number one, the org, but the Stones, the Who, Led Zeppelin, all of these other groups followed, essentially, for the same reason. But the Beatles would always be this kind of ground zero, as it were. It's just been interesting to put it all together, and I'm wondering, how are they related to Laurel Canyon? How are they related to the Dulles brothers and MK Ultra? All of this sort of thing. But the more you look at it, the more you see the occult symbolism, and that these were highly sophisticated occultists who were working their occult magic on an unsuspecting, unknown world. So anyway, I wish you all the best of the best of the best from this little kind of perch upon the remains of our Spanish fort here on Nowhere Beach. Many, 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 many blessings.